They don't have to order anything. They can just say, I'd like the free newsletter, the new edition, and we'll send them that newsletter. It'll be out within a couple of days. Again, they don't have to buy anything. Nobody's going to ask for anything other than their address, so we can send them the newsletter, and that's all.
And it's nice. This one looks like it was 8 pages, and it's just all jam-packed. And that newsletter is a good little tool to give somebody to... Texe is really good at getting people to become interested in something the way he presents it, because he's able to telegraph how amazing all this is. Texe, now let's get into the book. I mean, there's so many areas to cover, so many facets, so many angles. I mean, I said 15 minutes ago, where do we start? And you have started, and you've covered so much. I'm tempted just to ask you about, different sections of the book or different areas, but I think first off, seeing all of this, they want to bring in this one world government, as you were just saying. They believe now is the time. They believe they're in a hurry to get this done. So can you describe their basic cosmology? And then seeing this, there's all these different cults, but they have the same central ideas in them. And then when you look at the leaders of all the different Rosicrucians and the Masons, you notice it's a few hundred people are the heads of all these major groups, and they're part of other elite groups. Hence, the symbol is the pyramid for compartmentalization, and they set up all of their institutions along these lines. So if you can, give us their end game or their big picture and what they believe all these new cities they're building, what they believe those do, what they're building towards, this global plantation that you mentioned. And then I want to basically break down then some of the details of that you cover in your book. I mean, basically what I'm trying to say here is they're building their new world order. Why do they believe architecture is such a big part of it? It shows they're all really on the same team. If the Communist Chinese and the Russians and the U.S. and the Mexicans and the Brazilians and everybody, the Muslims, the Central Asians, the Middle Easterners, I mean, they're all building the same stuff. They all are parts of the same group. And I guess this transcends Catholic, Protestant. It's all controlled by the Jews, at the top. We're striking right at the core here. That's a big question, but I wanted to, get some of the different facets of it out, Texe.
Absolutely. Let me just prove your point. In Shanksville, Pennsylvania, that's where the one of the Flight 93 crashed. They have spent $54 million of U.S. taxpayer money to build a monument to the 40 or so people who died on that aircraft, okay, on 9/11. Now, would you believe they have built, or they're building a monument? And by the way, this was all set up by Senator Alan Specter, oil inspector of Pennsylvania. Remember, he's a 33rd degree Mason. He's the guy that created the magic bullet theory back during the JFK commission time. And the two senators and the governor of Pennsylvania are all Freemasons. But I want you to understand something. This is an outrage. Maybe you covered it on your program, but I have an actual picture on page 68 of my book.
I'm going to go to page 68 for people watching on prisonplanet.tv. Tell them what it is, Texe.
This is the new monument called the Flight 93 National Memorial. Now, people will love the fact they paid for this. It's oriented toward Mecca, and it is a star and crescent moon.
Yeah, let's be clear. It isn't just a star and crescent moon. It's aimed at Mecca.
It's oriented toward Mecca. It's a star and a crescent moon, which is the symbol of Islam universally. And it's actually called, now remember now, they use the star and the crescent moon in the Islam. This is actually called the Crescent of Embrace. The Crescent of Embrace. Now, at first you're shocked. You say, well, are they Muslims, the Illuminati, or these evil Freemasons Muslims?
Well,
no.
Some of the highest symbols of the Masonic orders is the crescent moon, and they wear the red fez for the murder of Christians.
That's right. The sun and the moon are actually cosmological deities to them. Now, interestingly enough, the Shriners, which until recently you had to be a 32nd degree Mason to be a Shriner, the Shriners actually have ceremonies in which they worship at the altar of Allah and Muhammad. So here we have the Shriners. The very word Shriners of Freemasonry means shrine of Allah and Muhammad. So now keep in mind, this is not even true Islam. They are intending to bring all of the religions together. First, they will destroy the true doctrines of religion, such as Christianity and others, and Judaism. Then they'll bring them all together in this horrible Illuminist
and
religion.
We know that.
So these people are religionists.
And we know that from Albert Pike. Explain that to the Muslims out there.
Albert Pike said this. He said he was the former sovereign grand commander of all Freemasonry, and then an Illuminati chieftain. He said every Masonic lodge is a temple of religion. Well, what religion is it? Well, it's very clear what religion. It's a Luciferian religion. They worship the great star god, who is Lucifer. And by the way, going back to this building of architecture, all the Masons say that their God is the great architect of the universe. Jesus is a word that is not mentioned in the Masonic lodges or the other occult orders and such, but they will mention the builder or the great architect. In fact, in one of the pictures I have in my book is the Wilshire Tower in Los Angeles, where they have a great carving statue of Zeus. He was one of their cosmological gods, the Greek god Zeus. He is the god above, but there's a god called Neptune or Poseidon, whose statue is in front of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and Fountain, and he is the god below. You see, they're bringing together the cosmological gods and deities. Remember, the Bible says that Satan is prince of the power of the air, and they're bringing that god in the form of Zeus, and they're statues of Zeus. Did you know that there's even one of Zeus on the Rockefeller Center in New York, and he's holding the compass? The square and compass is the major symbol of Freemasonry. It's the symbol of the builders. They are building a new utopia on this planet, the New World Order in stone. Their gospel is a gospel in stone.
Now, don't let me interrupt you, but I want to go back to that. But just since you mentioned it, when I got back from Bilderberg in Virginia, there outside D.C. in Chantilly, I spent off and on more than 2 days trying to videotape the occult architecture. Didn't even know you were working on this book. We're both so busy. And when I return, there laying on my desk is your new book with a nice letter from you asking if I wanted to carry it. And on the cover is something we shot 20 minutes of video of and marveled at and had police walk up and say, you can't videotape it, with Poseidon, with the mermaids and the mermen and the turtles spraying the water on them. And they've got this these eels, flotsam and jetsam swimming around, and I just marveled at that, and you know, shot video of that, and on every building, Supreme Court, you name it, there's little devils, little owls. I mean, it is, and then of course, so above, below, they always have the water gods down on the bottom. They'll always have a goddess up on a building looking down, just like in England, they always have the sacrifice. It'll say 10,000 dead troops, 20,000 dead troops, 200,000 dead troops, depending on the monument. Looking at her sacrifice, it's always the same. And then they've got in front of the vice president's residence, right next to the White House, in gold, the goddess with a flaming sword, and down below her, little demons, and then little demons with pitchforks. But it's all laid out the same. And when you're there, I mean, it's like a dog in a butcher shop if you're trying to shoot occult architecture. Everything is just laden and festooned with it. Go ahead.
Well, it does, and it goes all the way back again to Babylon, to Egypt, to Greece and Rome. Now, here's the interesting thing. Some people say, well, that's Greek-Roman architecture. And even, you know, the state houses, the Capitol buildings in Texas and around the United States are all built in this format. Surely that's not satanic. It's just Greco-Roman. But wait. One of the top occultists in the world, Jeffrey Hodson, wrote a book called The Brotherhood of Angels and Men. And I quote him extensively in Mysterious Monuments. He says, quote, we, and he says the spirits told him this, we, or devils really, we are Greece reincarnate. We're building fairer cities than even were built in ancient Greece. Now, why Greece? Greece seems like a nice enough, compatico nation today. But remember, Greece borrowed all this from Babylon and Egypt and had all these gods and goddesses And really, they are a function of the satanic court. In other words, they're a mirror of the satanic court. And what is going on with this architecture, this architectural
so is above, so below. Yeah.
That's right. They're mirroring what they vision as in hell, and they're building it on earth. They're building a hellish utopia right here on earth. Let me give you an example. The pyramid, of course, was built by the pharaohs, I believe, with demonic intentions. It's a place of death, and the sarcophagus of the king or pharaoh is in the king's chamber deep in the middle of that. But a man named Isaac Tigret, and I have a picture of him in the book giving a satanic hand sign, a multimillionaire. I think he owned the Phoenix Suns basketball team, NBA, and he's the founder of Hard Rock Cafe restaurant chain. Okay? Now, remember, their symbol is the sun.
What page is he on? What page is he on?
The sun guy.